Well, Game of Thrones season 7, episode 4 was lit. I don't use those words, but it's probably no more appropriate word to describe this episode. Wow. All right, so let me try to start at the start. So we see Bronn and Jaime still at the High Garden, the home of the Tyrells, where they've killed them all, and they've stolen all of their assets, their gold, their crops, all that stuff, for a couple of reasons: to deprive Daenerys's army of supplies and just like taking all the crops and stuff because those were allies of Daenerys. Also to steal all their money so they could pay back the Iron Bank. So that's what they're doing there. And Bronn is talking about, like, will you promise me a castle? There's plenty of castles over here, and I like Jaime's advice to him was like, well, we've just taken over High Garden, but we're very close to, like, we're still in wartime, so this can easily be taken back from you, like, as soon as you move in. So that was an interesting little moment between them, because you could be forgiven for forgetting the bond that Jaime and Bronn had, because, you know, Bronn has been Jaime's like trainer and kind of mentor in learning how to fight with his one hand. So like the bond that that stands out more to me is the bond between Tyrion and Bronn, because that's who we originally were introduced to Bronn through. But you see the bond that has grown between him and Jaime. So Jaime is he's still thinking about the fact that Lady Olenna revealed that she was the one to kill Joffrey. He's still a little bit shook by that. Also after that, we see Cersei talking to the people from the Iron Bank. They're saying, like, she's basically saying that it's going to be all paid off in one installment, and they've become used to their interest payments. So, you know, credit card companies don't really want you to pay it all off at once, but that's basically what they're talking about here. Is like, okay, so even though you're going to pay this all off, we have some other opportunities for you to extend the line of credit. Like, they keep trying to keep her on the hook. It's like, sure, it's great that you're paying us off, but we want to still have our hooks into you. So it's like, well, your army's going to need supplies. They're going to need and stuff like this. So they're trying to constantly extend this line. So that was interesting. Another reunion also happens in this episode. We see Bran finally show. He's shown back up to Winterfell in the previous episode. So we also see Arya show up at the gates, but like we thought, a lot of people assumed that Arya was dead. That was pretty much, seems like the consensus. The idea was that, yeah, she was murdered at some point along the way. I don't know exactly where they think she was murdered, but because she was there at the presence of when her father was beheaded and she was ushered away. And I guess just over the years, they assumed that she was dead. But so she shows up at Winterfell, and the guards don't believe she is who she says she is. She might have been better off saying, I am no one. And maybe she would have got in that way. But she sneaks past them. We see the reunion with Arya and Sansa. And there's still that tension there because they never really got along to begin with. And it was interesting. I saw the inside look that the writers were talking about after the episode. And they were talking about the fact that they are really more of themselves than they ever were. Like, Arya always wanted to be like a fighter, and Sansa always wanted to be a proper, like, a lady of the manor, or like a queen, because she was trying to court Joffrey or whatever the situation was. So, like, she is officially now the lady of Winterfell. She is in charge, and so she's in that position that she's kind of groomed herself for. And Arya is now that that effortless killer that she always wanted to be. So, and we see this illustrated, like you see the tension with them in the room, their family tomb, where they're looking at their father's monument or whatever. And then Sansa sees Arya display her skills with Brienne. So she's taking on Brienne in just a sparring session or whatever. So it's pretty smooth. Like she's not really breaking a sweat at all. She's like dancing around. So you see the skills that she learned from her dancing teacher back in the day, as well as who turned out to be the same guy, who is No One, aka the Faceless Man. So that was interesting that we see those skills coming together, and we see how well she can work with Needle, that little tiny thin sword. And Sansa sees this, and she's I would say she's a little bit disturbed by this, but this what your sister has gone through. She survived the way she survived, and you survived the way you survived. So they're just gonna have to learn to accept each other. Speaking of acceptance, they finally, like after they've reunited, she sees Bran, and Bran is much different, especially as illustrated in a scene before this where we see the wildling girl, the one who had brought her there, who's her brother was killed, and she's like having what she thinks is going to be this tear-filled goodbye with Bran, and he's just like, goodbye. And she's like, is that all you have to say to me? He's like, thank you. And she's like, is that it? She's talking about all these people that died, all that we went through. And then she's so emotional about it. But he's like completely different because he's not really Bran anymore. Like he said, he remembers what it's like to be Bran Stark. He remembers that life. But now he remembers literally everything else. So you can't be emotional for this one experience of this one person when you have now felt the lives and deaths and betrayals and everything from everybody who's ever existed. Like he's seeing everything all at once. So he cannot be connected in this very moment. He's the definition of detached. He's like, I am the all-seeing eye. I'm the three-eyed raven. I have no emotions for this one incident that we are in right now. I'm dealing with some stuff 100 years from now and 100 years ago. So it's interesting seeing that happen because it really, like in that one scene of him and the wildling girl, it really shows you the whole scope of what's going on with him. So I like that they conveyed that all through that one scene, because you kind of could just let this blow by and have Bran not be that important, but we're seeing what's happened to him and what's continuing to happen to him. So I think that was interesting. Let me see, what else did we have before the main event? We see Littlefinger scheming once again, and Arya peeps this after she has her sparring session with Brienne. She sees Littlefinger up there in his like scheming, sleazy way. He gives her a little nod, and she's just like, "Nah, I'm not cool with you." If there's going to be an issue there because he is not to be trusted, and Arya knows that probably more than any of the other Starks. Yeah. So. Oh, also, I like the moment beforehand, before she sparred with Brienne. Brienne was talking to Podrick, and she sees when Arya is first coming into Winterfell, and Podrick was like, "Oh, Catelyn would be so proud of you." Like, and then she says, "I did next to nothing." And when I was a little more harsh when I was thinking about it, watching the episode. I was like, "You did literally nothing. Like your mission was you pledged yourself to Catelyn Stark, and you said, I'm going to find your daughter no matter what and take her home. You found her, but you did not take her home at all. You found her, had a fight over who was going to take her home or what was going to happen with the Hound, and she just bounced on you. So you failed at your mission. So you did literally nothing, not next to nothing." But yeah, I guess you can't say she's completely to blame. Arya did not want to go with her. So so that was interesting. Also, the Littlefinger thing of giving Bran the dagger that was meant to kill him from season one. Uh, there's some significance there. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but there's something more at play with that dagger. I mean, I guess he's basically what he's revealed to them. Number one, that somebody rich wanted to have Bran killed way back in the day, and the fact that they haven't figured out that that was the Lannisters should, like that's really old information at this point. Like, yeah, Jamie pushed Bran out of the window, and he hired a killer to finish the job. And the fact that they still haven't figured that out with all of the other crap that the Lannisters have done to them, it's kind of speaks ill of the Starks' intelligence. But you know, this entire show has been the story of Starks being stupid. So they're slightly turning that around, but they still have a lot of catching up to do. It's like, okay, like, I mean, I guess Bran doesn't remember any of that. I mean, I guess at this point he should. He should be like, he should just be able to rewind back to that time where he was climbing the tower. He sees these two blonde twins banging it out, and then one of them gets up and pushes them out of the window, and so that should paint the picture more clearly. But we'll see, that starts to develop more. But I mean, they're sworn enemies with the Lannisters anyway, so I don't think it really makes a difference at this point. But I guess we'll see. Um, so let's talk about Danny and John. So after their contentious meeting last week, they've gotten past most of that stuff, and John is showing Daenerys inside his big old cave. It shows her the dragon glass mine. It's like, I wanted you to see it before we hacked it to pieces. And then they like, so they're in there together, and they see all these like cave paintings and like glyphs, like hieroglyphics. It's like a kind of a version of stuff that was found in Egypt, or kind of like ancient cave paintings just in general. So it was interesting. They were seeing the story play out, and they were like, John was telling her, she was like, okay, she was like following along. It was like a museum tour. It's like, okay, so these are the children of the forest, and these are the first men. It's like, oh, they live here together. It was like, were they fighting, or what was the deal? It's like, no, they work together to fight a common enemy. Then we see the White Walkers, and whoever, like, whatever ancient person scratched the image of the White Walkers into that cave wall, they were pretty dead on accurate, because that's like exactly how they look even now. So like with the like horns in their heads and like the ribs sticking out, it was very realistic imagery. So I thought that was pretty dead on. So after like they have their moment in the cave, like they're talking about like how these two groups work together. She tells him to bend the knee. It doesn't really get revealed if he did it or not, because they came out kind of seeming like they might have come to a resolution on that, but I guess more on that later. But like in the cave with the fire flickering between them, there was definitely some tension, sexual tension, I would say, and they would kind of spell that out in the writers' discussion after the show. So I think maybe the ship that a lot of people were into, maybe that's gonna happen. Auntie and nephew together at last. So as soon as they come out of the cave, Tyrion and Varys are there, and they have some long faces. So they tell her, it's like, we've captured Casterly Rock. It's like, well, that should be good news, right? So then she finds out the fact that, okay, they don't say it, but basically like, okay, so we captured Casterly Rock, but they anticipated us going there, so they basically left it as a decoy for us. So we got it, as far as just having that position, but our army is stranded there, and meanwhile they sent the other army to take out our alliance members in High Garden. So I think that was a bigger blow than the success that they got by capturing Casterly Rock. It was like that was the seat of power, but it pretty much wasn't because they anticipated that. It was like, you know what, we're gonna move out. So it wasn't exactly the military victory they were hoping for. So we see back at oh, also like after she learns this, she's realizing like, okay, I'm losing this war before it even starts. Like they've made multiple preemptive strikes on us and we've barely come up with our game plan. So she's talking with Jon Snow. Is like, what should I do? And he was like, he was starting to say, I wouldn't even presume to be someone who could advise the queen. But she interrupts and was like, no, I need your help. Tell me what to do. And that speaks more to them possibly having some kind of resolution in that cave. Like they don't show it exactly, him like bending a knee literally and saying, I pledge myself to you. I was thinking we probably won't see Jon bend a knee until he proposes, but that's a prediction. And you can you come back to this video when that happens and say, called it. Anyway, so he basically tells Daenerys not to. I think he was talking about King's Landing specifically, but he's like, you don't want to win this war by burning people alive and tearing their town apart and stuff like that. Like, you want to be different than these rulers that we've had, these brutal dictators that we've had in the past. If you win by destroying people's lives and killing innocents and all this stuff, then you just be more of the same. You wouldn't be anything different. So that makes sense what he said, but it kind of makes it seem like she didn't listen to him. But when you think about the fact that she shows up to Highgarden and to attack them because they still just taking forever loading this stuff out of there. Also, well, I'll talk about it at the end. So she goes. Well, we're back at Highgarden. We see Jaime and Bronn, and they're loading up the wagons, and they've taken all the crops that they've stolen from the local farmers, and they just have like this wagon train heading out, and I guess they're gonna head out to their boats or wherever to get back to King's Landing. So Bronn hears something off in the distance. He's like, what's that? And then all of a sudden they're like, shields up, and everybody gets ready for this massive attack. I guess they feel the rumble, because I was thinking they heard the dragon initially, but they just hear the rumble and the oncoming attack from the Dothraki. So they're coming just wild as ever with those sickle knives. Like, those seem to be like the most effective weapons on the show, because it's like you can swing and poke at somebody, but a double-sided sickle that's like sharp on both ends, like you hook that around somebody, it seems like more effective than any other weapon I've seen on this show. I don't know why the Lannister armies just don't adopt this. Like, you know what, we're gonna have an attachment. Like, you fight fire with fire. Speaking of which, so they have this brutal battle with the Dothraki, and that's going back and forth, and all of a sudden well, I guess she shows up as they're approaching, but the dragon comes into the equation, ridden by Daenerys, and the game completely changes. It's just like, throw your old game plan out the window. And I didn't realize they had they call it the Scorpion, the little crossbow, the giant crossbow there with them, because I didn't know they were anticipating that, because this was a preemptive strike. It's kind of a recon mission. Oh, not really. They kind of knew what they were going there for, but I guess they were prepared for every occasion. So, like, man, that dragon attack, it just blew my socks off. I was just like, whoa. Like, even my wife, who was like in and out halfway paying attention to the episode, she was just fully locked in when the dragon started attacking stuff. It was just like, all right, we are fully in the territory of where we want it to be, probably since the series started. Like, when is she gonna use these dragons in wartime? She wants to take over the Seven Kingdoms. You got dragons. Use those dragons. So I feel like this is exactly what everybody has wanted from this show for 7 seasons. Like, man, and it did not disappoint. Just dragon fire. And you could see, because they say, like, what is it? Valyrian steel, dragon glass, and dragon fire. Those are the things that can kill the White Walkers. And you can see why that would be true, because you see the effect that it has on humans. Like, the dragon just spitting this fire on these people, and you can see, like, some people are trying to jump into the ocean and they cannot put the fire out. It's like literally like the strongest thing ever, it seems. And they're just like melting. You see, like, and Jamie's just, he's got the he's got that plot armor, man. That's the most effective armor in Westeros. So he's got he's using his plot armor. These people are getting burnt to a crisp next to him, like multiple times. Like, people like right next to him get lit up, and you just look and they crumble into dust and blow away. Like, that's how strong this dragon fire is. So it was just interesting seeing, like, them try to maneuver in this, and then, like, people are shooting arrows. They try to shoot just regular arrows at Daenerys, because that's, and it's funny that Tyrion and Varys and a couple, like, the advisors people, so, like, she basically brought everybody. So they're fully moving into wartime, because it wasn't just like, okay, I'm gonna go do this and come back. Like, everybody showed up. So, like, Tyrion and Varys are there, and they're, like, just, like, on a hill watching, which is, like, I would be kind of upset. Like, I come back and, like, hundreds of my men are killed, and you're just watching. It's like, you couldn't have done something. Like, you could have had your own giant crossbow and just shoot off from the sidelines. But anyway, so Tyrion is there, and he must have some really good eyesight, because he's, like, seeing everything. He's, like, got his eyes on his brother and his eyes on Daenerys as she's flying around. So they're thinking about the fact that what they said was, like, Daenerys, you can't do this. You should. I don't think they talked about specifically training dragon riders, but they were like, you shouldn't go into war on your own riding this dragon, because it takes one good soldier with a good arrow, and he can kill you, and that, like, all of this is for nothing. So we see that moment where they're all aiming, and I'm like, uh-oh, is that the words are echoing in my head. But Drogon just turns. He's like, nope. And he uses his, like, extra scaly, like, underbelly to deflect the arrows. So it ends up kind of being a chase with Bronn and the dragon specifically. Like Jamie's doing his best, like, dipping and dodging the dragon on his own right. Meanwhile, trying to fight Dothraki along the way, and it was smart of Daenerys, because she was doing targeted strikes. Like, okay, I'm gonna blow up all the supplies. So she, like, all that wagon train of supplies and stolen crops that they were trying to take for themselves. She burned that all up. So there's that as far as that strategic advantage goes. Except for the fact that those were supplies that were meant to support Daenerys that were being stolen by the Lannisters. So she's basically burnt up her own stuff. But, like, if I can't have it, nobody can. I guess that's the mentality there. Scorched earth policy. Literally, he scorched the earth. So I really enjoyed this strike, and like I said, it was this chase with Bronn, and he's, like, dodging. He's on foot dodging, fighting Dothraki, losing his sword, grabbing another one, pulling stuff off of wagons. So he's, like, trying to get to what we find out is this giant scorpion crossbow thing, and I was just like, no. Like, it's funny in the writers, the inside the episode discussion afterwards, they're like, in this situation, as a viewer, it's really hard to root for either side. I was like, not really. Like, Jamie is cool. He's had his kind of redemption story at one point during the time where he got his hand cut off, but he's still on the wrong side of this war. Like, Cersei is an evil witch, and she's burned people alive, innocent people, as well as her enemies in general, whether they were innocent or not. She is she manipulates people. She's does horrible, evil things to people who are against her, and you're just supporting that side. So it's like they were saying, like, who do you root for in this situation? Like, oh, I'm rooting for Danny, and I definitely don't want you to shoot my dragon. And like, I felt a personal attachment. Like, you better not shoot my dragon. So Braun is like winding this thing up and putting, like, they should have probably had one loaded already, and like you find that out as they were I guess one was initially loaded on the crossbow, because like I think he's getting chased by that one Dothraki soldier, and my wife had a good point. Is like, in these situations you never want to get a personal grudge. Like, don't chase anybody, because that's gonna go wrong for you. Like, you just fight your war and you get who's close to you. But if you chase somebody, that means you're distracted. You got a personal investment in this and you messed up. So that guy was chasing Braun, and we find out, he finally gets to the crossbow and he opens the thing up, instantly gets shot. One human being getting shot by that giant crossbow. So you know he was gone. So then Braun loads up another arrow. So I was wondering, like, it kind of shows you the like reload time of this weapon, and it was a little bit faster than I thought initially. I was like, it's gonna take forever to put that thing on there. So we see he loads it up, he shoots the first arrow and he misses Drogon. I'm pretty sure that's the one that Daenerys was riding. He's the biggest one, Drogon. So they circle around and they come back like they're gonna go take it out. But I was just like, hurry up, take it out. He's about to reload. So like she swoops back around, but way too slow. So he has time where he loads up another one. I was thinking, like, what does this take, like a minute to reload? So you have time. You just take him out before it gets to it. And it was funny because I was seeing people on Twitter like, well, I don't want Braun to die. But it's just like, well, if he has to die for the sake of Daenerys and Drogon, it's like, hey, he's got to die. You got to take them out together. Take out that weapon and take out Braun so he can't shoot it anymore. But he reloads the second arrow and he hits him. He wings Drogon, and I was worried it was going to be like in his chest or in his actual face, like how they did the test. Like, it could have gone straight through his skull, because he's even smaller than the great dragons that whose skulls they have in King's Landing. So like it wings him, and I'm worried, like, oh no, is he gonna recover from this? Because he's like crashing. So he recovers and he lands. So he's clearly injured, because I think he doesn't take off again for the rest of this battle. He's just on the ground, and she's trying to pull the thing out of him. Meanwhile, Tyrion's still on the hill watching all of this happen. He's just like, and he sees his brother. He's like, no, you idiot. Don't go after her. So like, you idiot. So Jaime sees his opportunity. So he takes mount on his steed. And I think he's just coming at her with a sword. So he's galloping towards her, and she's kind of distracted for a minute trying to pull the spear out of the dragon, and she turns, and just as he's about to get to her, and we knew this was going to happen, it's like, hey, yeah, you tried your best, but it wasn't good enough. So Drogon looks like, what do you think you're gonna do to my mom? I'm not even gonna let you get close to my mom. So he just whoosh, spits dragon fire straight at him, and somebody at the last second, I'm not sure exactly who it is. I am assuming it's Braun, but that would be some very lucky timing on his part, or unlucky for Braun, I guess. But somebody tackles Jaime off of the horse just as the fire is hitting him. I think the horse pretty much gets demolished as well. So we see Jaime sink into this ocean or whatever, and he's just sinking down there. And I don't know if he is gonna make it out of there, because they're still like, they're gonna just be waiting for him if he comes up, or he's gonna have to really practice holding his breath until this is all over, until she takes out literally everyone else in the Lannister army and leaves. Then he can safely resurface. I don't know exactly how long that's gonna take, but you never know. He might not come back up, but I'm assuming he will. But like I said, he was saved at the last second by somebody tackling him off the horse. I'm going to assume it's Braun, but that would be a slightly less dignified way for that character to die. Like when we come back to him in the next episode or so, he would just be ashes. So I'm going to assume that maybe it's that guy Dickon, whose name nobody can seem to get right. But when they hear it, it's just as funny as it always was. But like maybe it was Dickon because he seemed to be like kind of a standout as a new fighter. He had to fight his people who were formerly aligned with him, so he was kind of having a little moment in this episode, so that could be his like exit. Like he did this noble thing and he saved Jamie at the last second, or it could more likely be Braun, but we'll see. So that was really the end of the episode. We just see Jamie sinking into the sea. So he is still alive for any Jamie fans out there. But like I said, that was intense. Like how they were talking about it on the inside look after the episode. It was like, this is something we don't see very often. Like a principal character attempting to kill another principal character on camera together. Like it was like kind of a one-on-one situation in that ending part. So we know that the war is officially on. Like Jamie has he's fired his opening shot, where Cersei and Jamie as a unit they fired their opening shot, and Daenerys has answered effectively. Like I don't know if she's completely even the odds as far as like strategically, as far as numbers or whatever go, but she has taken out their attempt at repaying their debt to the Iron Bank. I'm pretty sure that's not gonna happen now. Pretty much everybody who was gonna bring that stuff back, like the banker was like, well, everything will be good as soon as the gold arrives. It's like, well, I don't think it's coming anytime soon. Jamie's gonna recover and probably be on his own out there. So, and everything has been destroyed. So I think he's gonna come back empty-handed. No pun intended. Like, who knows if he even has that other hand anymore? It's just like it might have fallen off in all this commotion. But this episode was really awesome. Like even with the slow start, like the developments in Winterfell are interesting. We didn't get anything from Sam this episode, but we had so much else that we didn't really have time for it. But like that ending, man, that's like there's been epic battles every season on Game of Thrones, but like this I feel like might top them all because it was literally exactly what we wanted to see. Like dragons go. Like we've seen moments where Daenerys is like, okay, she's getting attacked by all these people in this arena, and then the dragon just basically clears the board. But like this is an actual dragon in wartime, and I like the analogy that they use. It was like using an F-16 fighter jet in the Civil War or something, or in medieval times. It's just like, wow, you've completely gotten you've taken away all of the equalizers. You've used the equivalent of a nuclear weapon in this situation where nobody has those that level of weaponry. So that was really intense, and that's an episode I'm going to be watching again this week. That's one of those ones where you just like play it back. So yeah. I really enjoyed the episode. Let me know what you thought about the episode in the comment section below. Also, if you liked my review of this episode, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more videos like this. I do, like I said, I do TV reviews. I do movie reviews. I have a podcast I post every week. There's a new video on this channel every day of the week. So subscribe so you don't miss out, and hit that notification bell. Help me get to 150 subscribers. I would really appreciate it. So with that, I will say thanks for watching, and that's all you get for today.